The film begins with Jason, who was talking to his friend Craig, where Craig was telling him about the drug shipment he was waiting for. Craig told Jason that he had already sent it to him, and that it would stay with him for only one day until Craig returned from his trip. After that, Jason's father, John, went to the company, where he saw a worker named James working after hours. John decided to help him, and they talked together. James told John that he had been working with him for several weeks. At that time, Jason saw the mail car stopping in front of the house, so he knew that the drug shipment he had agreed with Craig had arrived. Jason received the shipment and entered his room to inspect the drugs, but he was surprised to find a tracking device inside. Meanwhile, the police had arrived at Jason's house, so he had no choice but to escape through the window. A chase ensued between Jason and the police, and it ended with his arrest. At the same time, John had arrived home to celebrate his daughter's birthday from his second wife. He received a call from his ex-wife, Selvi, who informed him that their son, Jason, had been arrested. John quickly went to Selvi's house, where she told him that the police were treating their son as a criminal, and she didn't know what had happened. John reassured Selvi that he would get their son out of jail. John went to the department to ask about his son, but the police officer at the reception refused to tell him anything. Then their lawyer arrived and asked him about the details of the case. The lawyer informed John that the case had been referred to the public prosecutor's office, and that the quantity of drugs found with his son made him accused of drug trafficking. Jason admitted that his friend Craig was the one who sent him drugs to the house. The lawyer told John that the punishment for drug trafficking depends on the quantity, and the quantity that Jason had was large, so he will be imprisoned for a minimum of 10 years. John and Selvi were shocked by the lawyer's words and couldn't believe what would happen to their son, who was about to enter university. Afterwards, they went with the lawyer to Jason. The lawyer told Jason that if he helped the police in arresting a drug dealer, he would receive a reduction in punishment from 10 years to just 2 years. But Jason told them that he didn't know anyone who trades drugs, and that he only knew Craig. The lawyer asked him if any of his friends buy drugs, but he refused to hand over any of his friends to mitigate the punishment. He was sad that his friend had turned him in, and he didn't want to do the same. John called the prosecutor, who was named Joanna. Joanna was sympathetic towards John's son, but she was committed to the law and believed that everyone who is wrong should be punished. John told her that his son is not a drug dealer and that he is willing to cooperate with them to release him. The only dealer he knew was Craig, but Craig was also in jail. Joanna apologized to him and said that in this situation, she would not be able to help him. John asked her if he could help them instead of his son, but she refused his request and said that the law is clear and states that it is his son who should help them. John left and took his car, and began searching for a drug dealer in order to hand him over and reduce his son's prison sentence. He arrived at an area full of drug dealers and tried to apprehend one of them, but the entire gang attacked him and beat him up, and they were about to kill him, but a police car passing by saved him. The police took him to the station. After leaving the department, he went to Joanna and she told him that he was about to die, and that in this way he would not be able to help his son. But she found John stubborn and determined to help his son, and she told him that in order to help his son, he must help them catch a drug dealer, but he must have a very large amount of drugs with him. John told her that he has a company, and that most of the workers working for him were in prison, and that he would know how to deal with this matter. John returned to the company and searched through the employees' files until he found James' file, who used to assist him, and he learned that he had been arrested twice before on charges of drug distribution. After work, John followed him in his car and offered him a ride, and they went to a restaurant together. James thanked John for agreeing to work for him and for helping him and his family. John told him that it is difficult for him to find a job because of his past. James believed that John invited him to the restaurant to ask him about his past, but John told him that he wanted him for another reason, and that he wanted him to meet a drug dealer and would give him $10,000. But James refused and told him that he was trying to get back to his normal life and stay away from drugs, and that he was doing it for his family. After that, he left the place, so John followed him and raised the price to $20,000, but James wasn't interested and left him and went away. On the following day, while John was outside the company, James found himself in front of him. James had changed his mind and decided to help him for the money, so he took him to a big drug dealer named Malik. James entered alone, and he and Malik had been friends for a long time. Malik asked James if he had returned to work again. James said he was doing a favor for his friend, and that his friend, who was with him in the car, had helped him in prison. Malik agreed to meet John. John entered and asked him what he wanted. John offered to transport any goods he wanted and guaranteed that there would be no risk to his merchandise. Malik asked him about the quantity he could transport. John told him that his trucks could carry half a ton and that he knew how to deceive the police and easily pass the trucks. Malik was impressed with his words but placed a condition: John himself would transport the goods for the first time to test his efficiency, and he asked him to leave because he wants to speak with James, and he told him that he would be with him in the operation and monitoring him. But James told him that he disagrees, and he told him that he only connects them with each other and has no involvement in anything that will happen. Malik threatened him and told him that he would kill John if he doesn't agree. So James was forced to agree. James left and told John that he would be with him in the first operation. John then went to the prosecutor's office and met Cooper, a drug enforcement officer. John had recorded the agreement that had taken place between him and Malik. Cooper told him that the person he had made an agreement with was one of the most dangerous drug dealers. Joanna agreed to the operation and agreed with John that Jason's punishment would be only 1 year. But, of course, this is if they managed to catch Malik. Afterwards, John went with Cooper and told him that they had installed listening devices in the truck. He advised him to act naturally so that no one would suspect him. John got into his truck and met James, and James informed him that the delivery location is a city on the border. They arrived at the delivery location, which turned out to be a scrapyard. He watched them from afar. Al-Tobu, the leader of the gang that would give them drugs. The gang members opened the cement bags and hid the drugs inside, then returned them to the truck. But suddenly, a shootout occurred, and another gang called the Northern Gang attacked them. John quickly ran to the truck, and he and James got on it and started to escape. Al-Tobu and his gang defended them until they were able to escape. After the war between the two gangs ended, Al-Tobu called Malik. He was glad because John knew how to act and managed to escape with the merchandise. At that time, John arrived at the company. James called the Malik and informed him that they had arrived. But Malik told him that the delivery location had changed and gave him a new address. John became tense when he learned that the delivery location had changed, meaning that the plan would not succeed with the police. He handed over the keys to his car to James and asked him to transport the drugs to him. He went to his office, called Cooper, and informed him of the new delivery location. James noticed from the external phone that someone was using the company's phone and was having a conversation. So, he asked him who he was talking to when he came out. And John started threatening him, saying he would kill him because he suspected he was working with the police. Then John explained the situation to him and told him that he was talking to his wife and called her from the company's phone to convince her that he actually works at the company. James allowed him to leave, but he was still skeptical. They got in the car and went to the new location for the delivery. Cooper and the narcotics team had already arrived at the new location. Cooper told his team that they would arrest them after the delivery. John got out to meet Malik, and Malik asked him to take the drugs out of the car. Malik received the drugs and gave John the agreed-upon money. He told him that the gang leader who gave them drugs wants to meet him to negotiate working with them permanently. Cooper had heard Malik's words and did not order his team to attack. He told them that the operation had been cancelled. Malik and his men left, and John was surprised by what had happened. John and James got into the car and returned to the company. The next day, John went to meet Cooper and was extremely upset because they had not captured Malik and his gang. So he told Cooper that he heard Malik's words and that they might be able to apprehend the person who is selling drugs to Malik, who is more important than Malik himself. And he asked him to be patient and meet them again. After that, he left and went to meet his son. And James was following him in the car. While he was outside, he was surprised to find James waiting for him, and James asked him what he was doing in the department. He told him everything, that his son is imprisoned, and that he is cooperating with the police to reduce his son's punishment. James got angry and told him that Malik is a leader of a large mafia gang, and if they find out, they will kill them, not only them, but also their entire families. And he is afraid for his family and his son. Then he left and went away. James returned home and found his wife had found the money he took from John, and she learned that he had returned to the drug trade. James asked her to gather her belongings, along with their son, and go live with her mother until this period is over. At that time, John had quickly returned home. His wife informed him that the gang had suddenly broken into their house. John asked her to go and pick up their daughter from school and go live with her sister. John asked Malik about the reason for his entry into his house, and Malik told him that Al-Tobu wants to meet him. Malik took John to the place, and he told him that if he worked with them, he would be part of the family and they would protect him and his family. He also informed him that the upcoming drug shipment would be a test for him, and if he succeeded, he would receive $250,000. John left afterwards and went to meet Cooper, and they told him that the gang only knew the names of his wife and daughter. Cooper told him that El Topo is a former military officer and the leader of a Mexican mafia. John told them that he would transport another shipment for them to Mexico the next day. So, Joanna told him that he would transport money, not drugs, because there are laws that prohibit sending large amounts of money through banks, and seizing this money would be a major blow to the mafia. Cooper appeared worried, so he asked Joanna to speak with him privately. When they went out, he told her that Malik was among them and they could capture him. Joanna refused and was determined to capture El Topo and seize the money. Cooper told her that John would not return if he crossed the border with this money, and he meant that the mafia would threaten him with death. However, Joanna continued to refuse. Cooper left and John entered to speak with her. Joanna told him that she was determined to capture the entire gang and seize the money. John took advantage of the opportunity and told her that he would help her on the condition that his son would leave on the same day. Joanna was forced to accept his condition. He went afterwards to meet James. He asked for his help and told him that he would not comply with the police's words and that he had a plan. Then John received a message with the address from which he would receive the money, and he went out and took the trucks. Cooper and his team were watching him, and they had placed tracking devices in the truck. John stopped in the middle of the road and replaced the monitored truck with another one. Cooper was worried when he found that John stayed for a while in his place, so he went to the truck's location, but he did not find John in it. John called James and told him that he relies on him and needs the El Topo number. James was at a house observing a gang owned by Malik. John arrived at the address, met with the gang, and they started transferring the money to the truck. At the same time, James saw some members of Malik's gang leaving. He took advantage of the opportunity, killed one of the gang members, entered the house, found two inside, and managed to kill them. He entered searching for Malik, and when he saw him, he shot at him and asked for his phone and took the number El Topo, and he sent the number to John. The policewoman who was in prison appeared, talking to one of the gang members. She told him that John has a son inside the prison and his name is Jason. He called and told El Topo about it, and then he knew that John works with the police and that he does it for his son. John contacted Cooper and informed him that he had changed the plan to ensure things go as desired, and that he will not cross the border into Mexico, and that he will deliver the money while he is inside. Cooper told John that he received information indicating that someone was asking about Jason, and he found out that it was his son. John gave him the number El Topo, and he asked the police to locate him and arrest him. The chase between the gang and John began, and they started firing at him. John killed one of them and managed to turn one of the gang's cars around. At this time, the police arrived at the location where El Topo was. However, he had already preceded them and left the house. Cooper saw him on the road, so he informed the rest of the forces to close the road in front of him, surrounded him, and succeeded in capturing him. The gang was still chasing John. One of the gang members was about to kill him, but John hit his car and killed him. One of the gang members managed to flip the truck. John believed he was about to die, but he found a narcotics officer in front of him. After that, we saw Cooper meeting James, thanking him for his help, giving him a paper to sign, and informing him that John had given him a reward for capturing the gang, considering it the end of his service. The story ends with John welcoming his son Jason as he comes out of prison.